So I've been writing about hidden drag for quite a while now, and I want to pause for a few minutes and connect some dots for you. Because the point is not the language. The point is the pattern. If the same priority keeps coming back, if the operator keeps rescuing clarity, if the founder keeps getting pulled back into decisions that supposedly moved, there's probably something underneath the work that never fully closed. And that's the pattern that I call hidden drag. So in this video, I want to answer the questions that I think are worth clarifying after the length of time that I've now been kind of writing about the topic. What is hidden drag? How is it different from productivity or execution? What are the four types? What do I mean by phrases like decision residue or decision echo or closure confidence or decision half-life? And most practically, where should a founder-led team start? So let's keep this simple. Hidden drag is the invisible operating cost that builds when important decisions do not fully close. And that's it. It's a very plain definition. It's not the same as being busy. It's not the same as having too many meetings. It's not the same as poor communication. Those things can all be symptoms, but hidden drag usually sits underneath them. It shows up when a decision that felt settled keeps coming back. It shows up when the operator has to explain the same thing again. It shows up when the founder gets pulled in to clarify something the team thought was already clear. It shows up when 5 people leave the same meeting with 5 slightly different versions of what was decided. It shows up when everyone agrees on the priority but nobody names the trade-off. It shows up when the calendar keeps carrying the cost of a decision the room did not finish. And that's why I don't usually start with the question, why is the team moving slowly? I start with a different question. What decision is the work still orbiting? Because a lot of teams are not slow because they lack effort. They're slow because capable people are working around decisions that don't fully close. That leads to the second question. Why isn't hidden drag just a productivity problem? Because productivity starts with how work is getting done. Hidden drag starts with what decision is shaping the work, and there's a difference. A team can be productive inside a weak decision system. They can send updates, attend meetings, build the deck, track the metrics, follow up quickly, and still keep recycling the same conversation. And that's the frustrating part. Nothing looks obviously broken. People are working hard. The calendar is full. The updates are happening. The priority has motion. But the same issue keeps resurfacing. And that's when leaders often reach for productivity fixes. Better meetings, clearer agendas, more accountability, sharper updates, cleaner dashboards. And those may help, but if the decision underneath the work never closed, better productivity can just create cleaner recycling. You have a better meeting about the same unclosed decision. You can have a better dashboard showing the symptoms of the same unclosed decision. You can have a better recap that still doesn't say who owns the call, what trade-off was accepted, or what would reopen it. And that's why hidden drag is not primarily about moving faster. It's about closing more cleanly. Now, the next question is usually, what kind of drag are we talking about? Because hidden drag isn't just one thing. In the diagnostic, I look at 4 common types. Those are decision drag, alignment drag, structural drag, and human drag. Decision drag is when the decision was discussed, maybe even agreed to, but never became clear enough to hold. So the meeting ended, the recap went out, people nodded, but 2 weeks later the decision is back on the table. That is often decision drag. The call did not earn enough closure to survive normal pressure. Alignment drag is when people appear aligned but carry very different interpretations into the work. Everyone nodded, but sales heard one thing, product heard another, finance heard a condition, the COO heard a trade-off, the founder thought the team understood the intent. That is alignment in tone, but not alignment in operation. The room agreed, but not to the same agreement. Structural drag is when responsibility and authority don't match. Someone owns the outcome on paper, but doesn't own the decision in practice. The org chart says one thing, the operating behavior says another. A senior leader is accountable for progress, but still needs founder reaction, board input, or another executive's approval before the call can actually close. And that creates waiting. Not because people are incapable, because the system gave them exposure without real authority. Human drag is when the decision is visible, but the cost of owning it is hard to name. The room may know enough to decide, but the trade-off disappoints someone, or creates risk, or exposes a prior assumption, or forces a founder to let go of something, or asks a leader to say no to a customer or to a team or a project that still matters. So the room stays polite. It asks for more alignment, more analysis, another pass, a broader conversation. And sometimes those are legitimate, but sometimes there are places where the hard sentence hides, and that is human drag. The point of naming the 4 types is not to build some complicated framework. The point is different drag needs different intervention. If it's decision drag, you need closure. If it's alignment drag, you need interpretation. If it's a structural drag, you need authority and responsibility to match. And if it's human drag, you need to name the trade-off without turning it into blame. And often, most often in fact, there's a mix. That's why one stuck priority can be so hard to fix from the surface. The visible symptom might be a delayed launch, but underneath it there may be unclear ownership, different interpretations, founder approval dependency, and a trade-off nobody wants to say out loud. That is not one meeting problem. That is a drag pattern. Now, I want to define a few phrases I have started to use because they're meant to make the pattern easier to see. The first one is decision residue. Decision residue is the leftover ambiguity after a meeting that felt settled. You know the feeling. The room ends, people seem aligned, the recap is clean enough, but later the operator is still clarifying. A VP asks, "Did we actually decide that?" A founder says, "I thought we were still considering another option." A manager slows down because they're not sure how firm the call really was. That leftover ambiguity is decision residue. It is what the system has to clean up after the meeting because the decision did not fully close in the meeting. Good operators often get very good at cleaning up decision residue. That is a very real skill. But if the same operator keeps cleaning up the same kind of residue, the system is not learning. It is depending. Second, we have decision echo. A decision echo is the same unclosed decision coming back through a different channel. It was a roadmap conversation on Monday, then a Slack thread on Wednesday, then a founder check-in on Friday, then an alignment conversation the next week. Does that sound familiar? The labels change. The underlying decision is the same. The system is repeating the call because it did not close cleanly the first time. This is one reason recurring meetings are such useful signals. The meeting itself may not be the problem. It may be the echo. The calendar may well be showing you the decision that keeps coming back. Third is closure confidence. Closure confidence is the team's belief that a decision will stay made under normal pressure. That phrase matters because people don't only respond to what leaders say. They respond to what the system has taught them to expect. If decisions are often reopened, then people learn to hedge. They bring options instead of recommendations. They soften their language. They check before committing. They avoid sounding too certain. From the outside, that can look like hesitation, but often the team is actually reading the system correctly. They don't trust the decision to hold. That is low closure confidence. Conversely, a team with high closure confidence doesn't believe decisions are perfect. They simply understand what was decided, who owns the call, what trade-off was accepted, and what would justify reopening it. That gives them enough ground to move. Fourth, we have decision half-life. This one I think may be especially useful. A decision's half-life is how quickly it loses clarity after the meeting. Some decisions stay clear for months. Others lose half their clarity by Wednesday. The meeting ends on Monday, but Tuesday people are asking what was really meant. By Wednesday, the owner was unclear. By Thursday, the trade-off was being softened. By Friday, the founder is being pulled back in. That decision had a very short half-life. Not because people forgot, but because the decision was never built to hold. It didn't have a clear owner. It didn't have a named trade-off. It didn't have a clear authority path. It didn't have a reopening rule. So clarity decayed quickly once people left the room. And that's why I keep saying that quiet is not closure. A decision that remains closed only while nobody tests it is not closed. The real test is what happens after the meeting. Can the decision travel? Can someone who was not in the room understand what changed? Can the team make smaller decisions 2 weeks later without reassembling the original room? Can the operator point to the call without translating everyone's intent from memory? Can the founder stay out of the decision path unless something material changes? If the answer is no, the decision's half-life is probably very short. Now, here's a question that usually follows. Why do capable teams still look slow? Because capability does not fix unclear closure. In fact, capable teams can hide weak decision systems for a very long time. They compensate, they clarify, they translate, they follow up, they build workarounds, they make the company look more functional than it really is. And that is especially true for strong operators. A strong COO or chief of staff, president, GM, or senior operator can absorb a hell of a lot of drag. They can turn founder ambiguity into usable direction. They can clean up decision revenue. They can keep priorities moving. They can protect the team from confusion. They can make the system look mature. But sometimes the company starts confusing one person's capacity with organizational maturity. And that is the operator trap. The operator is not the problem. The operator is the signal. If the same person keeps rescuing the same kind of decision, look at what the system keeps asking them to rescue, because that is often where the drag is. Now, let's talk about where to start. And this is important because the wrong move is to try to diagnose the whole company at once. And that gets too abstract far too quickly. So start smaller. Start with one priority that keeps coming back. It could be one recurring meeting, one founder check-in, one operator rescue, one roadmap decision, one hiring approval, one budget shift, one customer promise, one AI pilot, one pricing exception. The priority does not need to be dramatic. It just needs to be important enough that the repeated drag costs you something. Then ask 5 questions. What decision are we actually trying to close? Who owns the call now? What trade-off are we accepting? Who has authority when the decision gets uncomfortable? And what would justify reopening it? Those are 5 simple questions, but they're not always easy to answer because they move the conversation from activity to ownership, from alignment language to trade-off clarity, from we talked about it to we closed it, from the team should move to the system has given them enough ground to move. That is the practical work of decision velocity. Decision velocity is not about rushing decisions. It is not about pushing people to move faster for the sake of speed. It's about reducing the drag created by decisions that do not fully close. When decisions close cleanly, work can move without constant translation, reassurance, reopening, and founder pullback. That's the goal. Not speed as a personality trait, closure as an operating discipline. So if you've watched this and one priority has come to mind, that's probably the place to start. Not the whole company, not the whole operating system. One priority. The hidden drag diagnostic is built around one stuck priority, not your whole company. It takes you about 7 to 10 minutes, and it helps identify whether the drag underneath it is decision drag, alignment drag, structural drag, human drag, or, quite often, a mixed pattern. The link is in the description. Take the diagnostic, use it on one real priority, and see what it surfaces. Because once you can see the decision underneath the drag, you can stop treating every follow-up meeting and clarification as a separate problem. You can close the thing that keeps creating them. If you found this useful, be sure to subscribe for more short notes on decision closure, hidden drag, founder capacity, and operator overload. And if you know a founder, a COO, chief of staff, president, GM, or senior operator who keeps seeing the same priority come back, even though capable people are working hard, be sure to share this with them. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, where I write daily about the hidden drag behind stuck priorities and the decisions that never quite close. My name is Warren Wanowski. Thanks for watching.